It's the Wilk Report. I'm Michael Wilk, coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio, and the rumor mills are already flying off the press for Doctor Who, which I'm going to be reviewing shortly, but first I want to address these rumors. According to sciencefiction.com, it's possible Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall may leave Doctor Who after Series 12. And let me quote some from the article. The Whovians are running the rumor mill, as some updates from the long-running time travel series Doctor Who have been shared by sci-fi magazine Starburst. The rumors are centered around the second series of Jodie Whittaker's time as the Doctor, which is in pre-production. The first rumor comes from a BBC source saying that the 12th season will not be delayed until 2020, as was earlier reported. They state the series will air in 2019. The magazine writes, the BBC was happy to go on the record about the program's short-term future. There had been a lot of chatter about Jodie Whittaker's second run in Series 12 being planned for a broadcast in the spring of 2020, rather than in the autumn of 2019, as everyone had originally assumed. This is not true. We were told that Series 12 went into production this week and that it will definitely be broadcast next year as part of the autumn 2019 TV schedule. The second and most upsetting rumor deals with the future plans for Whittaker and showrunner Chris Chibnall. The magazine addresses the issue, saying, new showrunner Chris Chibnall hasn't been happy behind the scenes and is set to quit after Series 12. We can only speculate as to his possible reasons, if indeed the story is true, but Chibnall told us quite firmly in January 2013 that he didn't want the showrunner job, and it's possible after the success of Broadchurch that the BBC pursued him for it against his better wishes, or simply that he changed his mind. Then continued, saying, either way, if there is any truth to this rumor, then it's also been said that Jodie Whittaker would not want to continue on as the Doctor without Chibnall at the helm and would leave at the same time as he did. Now, here's my thing, okay? Whittaker is actually not bad as a Doctor, okay? I mean, Capaldi, a lot of people didn't care much for him. Some did. I had no problem with him. But, he took a while to find his footing, all right? And, it's possible Whittaker might grow into the role going into next year. And, same thing as Capaldi. But here's the thing. It really depends on the writing. And unfortunately for Whittaker and Capaldi, the writing just continued going downhill as their tenures progressed. So, the problem I've had with Series 11 is not Jodie Whittaker. I was willing to give her a chance when she was announced as the Doctor. I thought the casting was, cynical pandering to a certain target demographic by the BBC, but I was willing to give the show a chance because after watching Broadchurch, I figured, okay, Chibnall's got a reputation for telling good, solid character stories. We'll see what happens. And the problem has been focusing on character to the detriment of plot. Whereas with Stephen Moffat, who was the previous showrunner, we had the opposite problem, where badly written plots with tons of loopholes and that you could drive a Mack truck through. And we really didn't have all that much in the way of character. So now we've got the opposite problem. And to me, I think it's just a matter of finding the right balance. Now, obviously, Whittaker is free to come and go as she pleases, once her contract is up. I don't know the terms of her contract. Matt Smith had a 3-year contract with BBC and then decided to leave once it was up. Capaldi, I'm not sure how long his contract was stated for, but it seems to me that, what's really gone wrong with Series 11 is the writing, in that we've had confused and muddled direction when there's been any direction at all, and no real stories here. I mean, there've been stories, but they've been, the villains have barely been present. They don't really present a credible threat. They don't come across as challenging. And so the stories seem contrived and kind of, just going through the motions. So, I don't know if that's Chibnall's fault or if he's just, phoning it in until, a suitable replacement is found. But if that's the case, and I don't know that it is, I mean, again, these are just rumors that sci-fi sciencefiction.com is engaging in. And I really cannot say that this is definitely the case until we have, some kind of official corroboration. So, don't take this as me saying this is definitely happening, okay? Because, it could turn out, oh, yeah, these are just rumors or whatever. Though it is, kind of disturbing that, there's already talk of Whittaker and Chibnall leaving. I mean, Russell Davies had 4 years. Moffat went on for 7, and Chibnall wants to leave after only 2. I mean, dude, that's, why did you take the job in the first place if you weren't going to stay? I mean, but, like I said, we'll see what happens. What I do want to do right now is get into my review of episode 7, Kerblam. And this is, again, it's another episode where the direction or lack thereof is posing some pretty serious problems because the messaging of the episode is all over the place. It doesn't seem to know what it wants to be. The episode begins with the TARDIS crew trying to outrun some kind of thing in the time vortex, and all of a sudden a robot appears with a package for the Doctor, and she's excited that it is her favorite hat. Yes, the Fez is back with a vengeance. But I'll get into that later. So yeah, we've got the Kerblam robot right here. There is a rather kind of boring pattern now of weird robots that, there's a Fez. And it actually looks worse on her than it did on Matt Smith. But, there's a pattern of killer robots that keeps getting repeated, and it's getting kind of dull. I mean, once or twice, that's fine, but you don't want to overuse something. That's one complaint that I've heard from a lot of people during Moffat's tenure is that, he would keep, returning to these same tired old tricks and villains like the Daleks, the Cybermen, Silurians, Sontarans, which isn't to say that we shouldn't see them ever, far from it. But Moffat resorted to using them even when he didn't have to, and the problem is that BBC, for all it might deny it, really does not like to have to pay out royalties to the owners of copyrights, because up until the mid-'80s, during Peter Davison's run, the copyright laws under Britain and BBC were basically not the same as they were today. If you created something, you had the ownership of it for as long as you maintained it. And BBC wasn't all that concerned about it because they figured, okay, it's Doctor Who is a low budget show. It's it wasn't the big iconic flagship series that it is today. So they didn't really care. But by the time the show had been going on for, say, 20 years, they started realizing, hey, we got to do something. So they started scaling back on their use of the Daleks and Cybermen. And, Russell Davies brought them back, but he used them a little bit more sparingly. Yeah, you might see them in one episode in a series, tops, until series 8 when you had the Daleks appear in a 2-part episode. So, excuse me. Uh, it just wasn't something that was overdone, even under Davies. But they still had to pay out royalties to the Terry Nation estate. They also had to pay out royalties whenever they brought up something related to the Brigadier, like say, they created the Brigadier's daughter, Kate Lethbridge Stewart. That's still kind of tenuously tied to a character created that does not belong to the BBC. So, Chibnall wisely, I think, stepped away from that. But the problem is that, again, we're at the opposite extreme here, where, he's not using any familiar characters, so he has to come up with new ones. But, again, no real ideas. That's why we had a Disney reject CGI cartoon this series, and why we've got a guy with teeth embedded in his face and a giant spider, and that's pretty much it. So in this case, it's a big, bad, evil corporation meant to stand in for, of course, Amazon. Because why not? Amazon, and actually there was a potential for a good story here. I'm not going to lie about it. You can actually tell a good story about just how big does a company have to be before it gets to be too big. But they took it in the wrong direction. So anyway, the Doctor and her companions go undercover badly in this intergalactic delivery service that's transformed an entire moon into their warehouse. And all the workers there are that they're fitted with these ankle monitors that designate what their function is supposed to be, and also they're kind of supervised by the robots that serve both as delivery functions and as supervisors. And the company is 90% robotic workforce. They've only got 10% human beings working for them, which apparently is the problem here because things start going wrong. So we've got a character here who, of course, finds himself alone after some setup here with Yaz, where he says, it's your first day here. You don't want to go down here because people go down there and they don't come back. So, he runs into one of the robotic delivery men who's standing there and acting all creepy. And of course, because it's Doctor Who, things start going wrong. So, and again, spoilers for people who haven't seen the episode. I'm going to save you the trouble. The villain of the week is actually a guy who is basically meant to stand in for, I guess, millennials, disaffected workers who are angry about being displaced by machines, who has set up the robots to deliver explosive bubble wrap. Yes, you heard me right. Explosive bubble wrap to the rest of the galaxy, hoping to bring down the Amazon stand-in. And so the message of the episode is Amazon good, workers bad, but we're going to hire those bad workers anyway because it's the right thing to do. Oh, wait, what? Come on, seriously? I mean, first of all, no, Amazon is not good, okay? And the message, and Whittaker's doctor has a throwaway line saying it, systems aren't bad, it's the people who run them who are bad. Well, that's actually not true. Bad people create bad systems. And Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, is a bad person. He's greedy. He wants he wants to have his hand in absolutely everything and create a monopoly on delivery services and, underpay his workers and, basically, mistreat them however he wants. And if you're a bad person like that, any system you create is going to be bad because at its core, you had every intention of doing things that you knew were at best unethical and at worst might be illegal, like, say, poisoning people's drinking water because you don't want to clean up your own mess. That's what the coal companies dumping their coal ash into rivers and streams. So, if you're going to have an anti-capitalist message or even a pro-capitalist message, fine. But it seems like with Kerblam, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. On the one hand, they're trying to make excuses for Amazon, but on the other, and at the same time, they're attacking workers for being unrealistic and demanding that they be given jobs and treated decently in those jobs. But on the other hand, you're saying that, okay, maybe over automation is a mistake and we should start hiring more people. I'm sorry, but pick a message and stick with it. Don't try and have it both ways, because all that does is confuse people, and you really don't want to do that. So, I mean, this it just really frustrates me, because there are the bones of good storytelling here, but Chibnall just doesn't seem to have any interest in actually doing it. I mean, like I said, his characters are great. All right, you feel sorry for what happens to people when they get killed. Even the minor characters, there's a build up so that when you do horrible things to them, people react, as they're supposed to. So Chibnall's great with that, but he just cannot seem to go on plot, and we're now 7 episodes into a 10-episode series, and it just feels like it's just going through the motions until something comes to a head. I don't know what, but this needs to change. So anyway, that's my train of thoughts on it. I'll see if I can get some multi-person discussion later this week. If you like what you've heard, feel free to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we upload new content. And if you want to support the channel, head over to our Patreon page, drop some money down, help us improve the podcast. This is Michael Wilk for the Wilk Report saying take care, good day, I'm out.